I'm so glad to have you guys here today. As some of you know, and some of you don't know, I'm Annika Russell-Manke, and I am the Vice President of the Business Division for the Association of Career and Technical Education. And today we've gathered with you three very expert people in different areas of business and marketing that we're hoping to share some insights with you of what's happening. And then if you have any questions, we can ask them also. So Rick, why don't I have you introduce yourself first?
Okay, sure. Thank you, Annika. And thanks to ACTE for doing these series of webinars. I think this is really great stuff and great opportunities for teachers and administrators. I'm Rick Mangini. I'm currently serving as interim president CEO for MBA Research and Curriculum Center. I have spent my entire career in career technical education, now pushing about 40, almost 45 years as a teacher, high school teacher. The bulk of my career was spent at the Ohio Department of Education, where I served as a program leader initially for business marketing and information technology programs. I eventually finished my career at the department after 25 plus years as the Associate State Director for Career and Technical Education. Over about a 20-year span, I served as state advisor for DECA and BPA in Ohio, and also for 20 years was the representative for Ohio to the MBA Research Consortium. Retired in 2011, started with MBA Research on that staff in 2012, and have worked through different projects, part-time basis to get us to where we are now. So again, I appreciate this opportunity, some great questions. We've been talking about these very things on our staff at MBA Research, and I've drawn from some of our staff to come up with some ideas.
Okay. Deb, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Debbie Moore and love ACTE, very involved in career and technical education, been a marketing person for 20 plus years. We're not going to go into all those details. Teaching was a second career. I came out of industry and thought I'd leave it and never did, so I ended up staying. I'm a vice president of the marketing education division and excited to have some dialogue today on this really interesting time we're in, but I just have to remind you that in adversity comes opportunity. So we're going to just have to get a little more creative and come up with some great opportunities for ourselves and for our kids right now. So look forward to the dialogue.
And Sean.
I'm Sean Kavir. I can't believe y'all have thrown this together and like gotten this work done in such a short amount of time. I think it's a huge testament to ACTE for like really responding to the members. I know a lot of members have been kind of asking, well, I think a lot of teachers in general have been asking for help all over the place. So this just goes to show why I love ACTE so much. So thank you, Annika and the rest of the crew for putting this together. As I said, I'm Sean Kavir, and I've been teaching for 21 years. I'm in year 21 of teaching. All those years I've taught accounting, and then I think like all of us business teachers, you end up teaching a slew of other things that get thrown your way each year that's a need. I teach in traditional high school, 9 through 12 in a northern suburb of Chicago. I'm a long time ACTE member, and I'm currently serving as past chair of the bylaws committee, as well as a business division board member. So I'm just excited and super thrilled to be included in this. And I hope that what I share can be of help somehow to some of you.
Awesome, thank you. We're going to go on with our first question here. Given the extremely challenging times we are in, tell us what you feel is most important for leaders and teachers to be doing right now. Okay, which one of you wants to start?
I'll jump in.
Okay.
Well, first and foremost, and thank goodness we have the quality of leaders and teachers and administrators we have out there. Kind of everybody's struggling and scrambling to put things together and doing a great job. I think first and foremost, we have to think about how to continue to maximize and personalize the learning experience for students. I think it's absolutely critical. And I think we need to realize that learning virtually is not going to match a normal school day in a normal classroom setting. So I think it's important for teachers and administrators, all of us, to pay attention to maybe what are the most essential and maybe the most critical components that we have left in our school year. We have to make sure that we're moving forward and that we're not just stuck in time and we're doing review work and things like that. I think we have to maintain that progress. And I think also from a end of school year piece, what does the end of school year look like at this time? I think we have to pay attention to assessment accountability and what that's going to look like and how that's going to be managed. And I also think we need to pay attention to special populations, access and special populations and student IEPs. So I think the main thing is to really continue to make the teaching learning process real for students and that we don't really miss a beat.
Okay, very good. Some very good points there. Debbie.
I think the focus is on the students right now, the stress that they're under, the discipline for the seniors of what they've lost, stress that the families are under. We have some families impacted with COVID-19 and their parents are in the hospital. It's not looking good. Right now is not the time to be driving curriculum. Now it's the time to be driving connection. And it's really important that we reach out to them. Now, I'm not saying abandon your curriculum. There needs to be curriculum there. I'm out in Arizona. We're not doing finals and we are easing up on grades. That's the reality for us. I don't know if you guys are using the national standards, no more than 2 to 3 hours of work outside per class when they're online right now. So if you're using that, certainly that narrows down the scope of what you were delivering the last quarter. So big challenge there. But I think what is exciting about that is it really gets you down to taking out some of the busy work, really focusing on the key essential elements that the kids need, really having that discussion with them. And for the first time in a long time, I'm very excited that we're focusing on the learning, not the grading. It really is important that those kids understand the concepts. And if you're teaching marketing right now, oh my gosh, all the supply and demand scenarios that are out there, and I'm sure we'll share some resources with you, but I've got a great toilet paper lesson that's all about supply and demand curves, and it is fascinating why we're having shortages that we are. So there's some really good things that kids can have good input into right now, and it's really important for that reason. It's also really important for us to be creative. FAP is not lifted, that free and appropriate public education, that is not lifted. We're still held to that standard. So we are getting more creative on how we're delivering that content to our special needs students, and our low income students have some issues. We found an article from Fast Company on how to turn some old laptops into Chromebooks with great success. It's working. And we've got a bus that goes out in the neighborhood. It has a hotspot and it can help do Wi-Fi for the kids. So we're utilizing our bus drivers to go out in the community, not only with food, but to become a hotspot for those students. But again, the whole thing, we got to be a little more creative. We streamline and get to the key points, and we got to connect with the kids. I just read a Trend magazine today, and it said that public schools better do a good job connecting to students, because now that people are doing distance learning, they think they know what online learning is like. We may experience some attrition in public schools in the future. So we need to make sure that we are connecting with those kids, that we're still providing them great opportunities, even in this time, and make sure we stay connected with them, because the difference between experiencing and what they're going to be coming back to really is a good dynamic classroom and a good dynamic teacher. So we need to make sure we are that person and we don't lose contact with those kids.
Thanks, Deb. And you did make some good points there about looking at our curriculum. Looking at our curriculum and seeing, what we do really need to teach and what is not maybe necessary exactly to cover. So, Sean.
Yeah, just piggybacking off that last part real quick. I think this is maybe a nice and needed force into a little bit of spring cleaning with our content. And I think that not a lot of people love when I say this, but our content is not the most important thing in the world. As much as I love it, and as much as we all love it, because that's why we chose to go into that content. We're not in the content business. We're in the people business, and I think that leaders are they need to be supporting they need to be supporting people. Our leaders, the people leading teachers, need to be supporting the teachers. We as leaders for the kids need to be supporting the kids, and focusing on that side of it. And you know, if kids miss out on a month and a half of content that every other year in the world they should be getting, I don't think it's the end of the world. I think making sure that what they do get from us is doable, is very reasonable. I think there's a much greater danger in losing kids and losing parents from education than there is in losing out on a month's worth of curriculum and content. That's going to have a much longer term and stronger impact on the classroom, on kids being lifelong learners, and on parents supporting schools and supporting the education system. And, you know, holy Moses, we can't afford to lose parents' support of the education system this day. So I think that that's the main thing I'm getting from leaders and seeing from leaders in terms of the stuff I like. You know, I came across a quote the other day on Twitter. Neil Webb had posted this, and it was a quote, and it says, it said, "You're not working from home. You're at home during a crisis trying to work." And I think our students are not learning from home. They're at home during a crisis trying to learn, trying to figure out how to be students. And I think that's the number one thing we got to keep in mind. And then anything else we can get done in addition to taking care of our kiddos is just icing on the cake.
Hey, Sean, I'll jump in on that too. You're talking about the curriculum. I'm on a national group that we've been meeting, and everybody across the world is in this situation where all our students we're going to have to bridge at the beginning of next year. And people are panicked about that. Everyone is in the same situation. We all know when those kids come in that we are going to have to reassess some of the learning and find out where we're going to need to bridge them a little bit more. The colleges know that the kids coming in are going to need a bridge. We know the kids we have now coming up to us are going to need a bridge. We're going to have to do an assessment. And I think that's going to be really important at the beginning of the year, is some kind of pre-test to find out what did they gather, what did sink in, so that we know what we're going to be gauging for that first couple weeks of school, because it's going to be different than it has been in the past. So Sean, excellent point about, let's not worry about the loss of possible curriculum. Let's take care of the kid and move on to next year, and we'll catch up that curriculum.
Right, Debbie. I think it's definitely going to be a little bit more of a challenge when you look at courses that are sequential and have, you know, level 2, level 3, where you really rely on kids coming in with some previous knowledge. But I don't know. That's our job too. Like, this is what we signed up for. I don't mean to be like too crass about it, but this is what we signed up for, and it's our job to figure out where they're at when they come into our class, regardless of course level. And then adapt accordingly.
I think there also needs to be a balance here too. We have to make sure we balance screen time, students, and get that balance in the type of activities that they're doing, to have a variety of methods that kind of touch the students and reach out to the students and engage the students.
And I think those are all very good points. And I like that part where you said next year we can still fill some stuff in for those ones that are in sequential classes. And my oldest stepdaughter is a first-year welding student at Mitchell Technical College, where I teach, and her instructors, one of her first-year instructors said, you know, guys, don't worry what we're missing in the lab. You'll get it next year. The little bit that we didn't do, we can do next year. So I think that's a positive attitude to have of, this isn't the end of the world. We know that everyone's in the same position. I'll say it that way. It's just not one school or one state that's dealing with this. Okay, how does your program or institution, or those that you work with, creatively deal with hands-on learning that is so fundamental in the CTE programs? Sean, do you want to start with this one?
So yeah, the hands-on part is tough, and I think relatively, I think we probably got it a little bit easier than some of our other divisions in ACTE. Like, I can't imagine trying to teach woods or autos right now, and a slew of other courses. I think that, you know, there are tools out there, there are digital tools out there that can replicate hands-on pretty well. I mean, nothing's as good as the real thing. You know, as far as my accounting and finance curriculum goes, I use and integrate a finance and accounting education framework called color accounting, and that is by nature as hands-on as you can get when it comes to learning about financial statements and finances and cash flow and value flow and everything, to the point where it literally is a 3D kit, and it has boxes and things you put in boxes, and the boxes are color coded and arranged very intentionally to illustrate the flow of value through the accounting process and the business process. And so, you know, my kids have been doing that all year long, integrated throughout all of our units, all of our topics. And full disclosure, I totally drink the Kool-Aid in the Google world. We are in a full Google school. We have been before Chromebooks even were a thing. We got in early and have been using and developing in that world for a long time now. And so, you know, I've taken the framework that my kids have been working on hands-on all year long from color accounting and put that into a digitized setting. And I've been doing that throughout the year. Obviously, I'm doing it more heavily in a more scramble kind of setting now. But the two primary tools that I use are Google Spreadsheets, you know, kind of an obvious go-to for accounting and finance, but Google Drawings. If you've never used Google Drawings, it is not for drawing. That is not an art class tool. It is the most amazing spatial and object manipulation tool that Google has available. And so that allows me to create kind of those virtual boxes, virtual objects, and the kids can drag and drop things into those spaces that you can design on that digital canvas. And so that's given me a pretty good framework to work with, as far as keeping the hands-on feel, even though there's nothing as good as the real thing.
What was that resource that you listed again?
The digital tools.
I think the accounting one is the one they wanted.
Oh,
Yeah.
So color accounting, COLOR, just kind of how it's on color accounting, and that is it's a newer tool here in the U.S. It's been all over Europe and South Africa and Australia, and they're just kind of getting themselves here implementing in the U.S. and having teachers start to use it. It's a really strong corporate tool for corporate accounting and finance education, and it's really pretty amazing in the classroom as well.
Debbie, Rick, which one would like to go next?
Go ahead, Rick.
Okay. Good job, Sean. I think I think you said it right too. I think sometimes we may have it easier in some of the things that we address than maybe other teachers might have. We need to take advantage of that expertise that you'll have there. You know, I think video conferencing and video recording tools and how-tos are a smart strategy to use during this time. Discussion boards within learning management systems make a lot of sense in terms of staying connected. Breakout room, Zoom breakout room type things. We have our learning center has a number of ready to use activities on it. So we have there's a lot of group activities, individual activities that all make sense in terms of again, that level of engagement. Our high school business program has an observational internship requirement that students won't be able to do this year. So kind of as a workaround, we're having them view at least 3 videos of business professionals and discuss their careers, and then write a reflective writing assignment based on what they've learned from business people. And along the lines of business people, I think this is a great opportunity to reach out to business and actively recruit business executives to address students in a virtual format, and even to talk about specific topics that within the lesson planning that goes on. I think business has their hand out and is really willing to help. And I think they give students a real world experience in terms of relating their experiences as students in terms of the type of work and the skills that are needed in the workplace. So I think that there's a lot of opportunities there to take advantage of that I believe that our teachers are capable of doing and hopefully are doing.
All right. Thanks for bringing up internships. Depending on your school district, and thanks, Steve, for putting that in the chat, we'll share resources. Make sure you clear it with your districts because some of them are pretty strict on what you can and cannot use. So make sure that you're doing that with fidelity so that you're not getting in trouble there. Again, depending on your school district, there's a lot of campaigns gearing up. We have presidentials, we have some primaries. A lot of those companies offer virtual internships, particularly in the marketing and social media areas. So you may be able to reach out to a headquarters and have your students work for them. Again, you're gonna have to check with your school because sometimes when you talk politics, it gets a little dicey. But the kids are actually applying marketing skills virtually. Our students years ago worked with Senator McCain and did virtual social media for him, and it was pretty awesome experience for them. So keep things like that in mind. My class is marketing, so it is very hands-on, but a lot of what we're doing right now, we're still able to do. We're just in a different setting because we're having to do it through Zoom. But what I pose to my students is, okay, so you own a advertising company right now. How do you solve your problem? Well, you're going to go on Zoom and meet with your clients still. So they're doing the same thing. So we have kids right now. We just completed this morning some brochures and some infographics that we did for the Census Bureau. They reached out to us and asked our students to compile some things that would reach the teen market. So they put together some infographics, then they looked at them and figured out which ones they wanted for which demographics and which school districts. So they were able to deliver some social media content to districts. So that can go on. Lead to Feed, I think it's a Lead for Leadership or something now, it's changed. That's got some great social community service outreach programs that kids can do. And you can do some virtual ones. And they have a list of them on their website there that you can take advantage of. Also to keep the kids engaged, of course, DECA has a stock market game and it's free right now just for Financial Literacy Month. So they can reach out and do that. Sports Career Consulting has a career-focused one for sports marketing, so that's a good one to check into. Kids always need the time. It's almost a blessing to have a restart because seniors need some time to get all their stuff together for college. So we've been having some of them working on their career portfolios, updating their letters, updating their resumes, updating their searches. My juniors are a little concerned because we do their recruiting portfolios as well. So they're concerned because their seasons were cut short. So we are talking strategies and how to reach out to coaches and to make sure that they can get their footage, their game footage they need. So there's a lot of things out there that can be going on. DECA just came out with their list of the research questions last year or for next year. Really great questions because they're how would you get your business started again after COVID-19? I mean, that's what every business leader is dealing with right now. So it's really good for kids to be starting to think of those things. How would they do it? What suggestions do they have if they're still working for their businesses as well? So there's a great number of opportunities and it's a different hands-on learning, but it's still hands-on learning. And more than anything, my goodness, problem solving and critical thinking right now is at the forefront. It's beautiful out there. So get the kids engaged in helping to solve the problem instead of sitting around crying about it. They came to me and said, Ms. Moore, our prom, our graduation, what are we going to do? I said, I don't know. What can we do? How do we honor you? How do we solve the problem? Put it back on them and let them solve it. They're pretty smart. They'll figure it out.
Maybe that's a great point about CTSOs. Whether you look at DECA, business professionals, FBLA, they all have great projects that sometimes are competitive event based, but they make great in-class projects. And now's a great time to use those as a individual or group project in the class. Great idea.
Kelly Deemer would like to share a little something about this topic also. She is the past president or past VP of the business division. Kelly?
Thank you, Annika. Yeah, I'm currently working with ACT with work-based learning, and so you all have brought up a lot of really good points that I've gotten a lot of questions from the field about how is it that we're supposed to continually doing work-based learning when our students can't be out there working, or how do we keep them engaged, all those types of things. So a lot of good examples have already been given, but I want to just throw out there the idea of TED Talks, because you can search TED Talks for all kinds of different topics. If you want to challenge the kids to think about a challenging topic, and it's everything across the board. I know that I'm using some TED Talks in my university classes to challenge the future teachers to think outside the box, think, about, I'm not only trying to challenge them to think and, give them some unique perspectives, but also giving that to your students. So, TED Talks is out there. Tell them to get off YouTube and those other things, and look to TED Talks for some good topics. But of course, you always have to preview those first, because sometimes you're not sure where that little speaker is going to go when they get started. But I've learned a lot just during this time off. So that's what I want to add. So thank you.
Thank you. That's very good. I know I kind of forgot about some of the going into TED Talks more. I use them a lot in my management class in the fall, because there's a lot of good ones that I can fill in there. So, okay, we're going to continue on here. It seems like everyone has come out of the woodwork to share resources related to distance learning and otherwise. Some are stronger than others. How do you decipher through quality and from non-quality? So how do you decipher between what's good and not good? Rick, would you like to start with that one?
Sure, Annika. We put together a whole menu of resources that are on our website, but we decided to only recommend resources that have been vetted by either our staff or a group of our teacher leaders. We work with a teacher advisory network of teachers across the country in many states, as well as a focused professional development team. And we go to them to help us do that very thing throughout the year. And it's really paying off now in terms of them vetting the products and resources we're recommending. And that saves teachers time. Vetting the resources that we're sending out to them, and they're being shared in a special newsletter every Tuesday. We put out a COVID-19 newsletter that kind of gives update on different resources that we've discovered within even a week's time from some of the great teacher leaders out there. So I think, and that's for business marketing. We've got our COVID webpage has resources for personal finance, entrepreneurship, website review, and a number of other topics, again, that have been vetted through teachers who are recommending resources to us almost every day. And many of them, they have used online already in previous situations. So they've proven to be very effective in an online model. So I think the teachers need to be able to save time in terms of all the resources that are being put out to them and all the resources that they're coming across. So that's a very difficult thing for them to have to do. And that can take a lot of time to make sure that they're looking at the right resources, they're choosing the right resources in terms of what they need to meet their students' needs. So I think it's key for all of us who are in that resource area and recommending resources to make sure that we have sort of a quality control on those particular resources.
Sean?
My gut on this one is just kind of stick with what you know. I think we're in scramble mode, and we all have some level of a professional learning network that we've created for ourselves. I don't know if now is the time to go try and build that into a robust machine in the next day or two. I think that we all know ourselves super well, and we are like the one person that we should trust the most, and whatever feels good for you as far as a resource goes, whether it's an organization or a person that if you're getting it from someone or some group that you trust, then I think then run with it. if you feel comfortable as a person with your students in your school, I think there's so many different environments right now reacting differently, and everybody's just trying to do their best. You know, I don't think there's a wrong and a right in this. You know, we'll be able to look back on it and find some betters and some not so greats. But if you feel comfortable using this as a guinea pig time and testing something brand new, I think that's kind of cool when the stakes are low. I mean, I know, you know, there's very low expectations put on me right now for like how much my kids learn in this scenario. So it's kind of a cool setup to have a low stakes, test some stuff out. And if it tanks, it tanks. And what better way to model taking risks and not being afraid to fail for your kids than doing things like that. And this is a pretty low risk situation for us as teachers to go ahead and like, what the heck, give something new a shot. But if you don't feel comfortable doing that, don't do that, because then it's going to be painful for everybody, and the kids will see right through it. So I don't know. The short answer is that my gut just says go with you be you, and just keep being you. And then, you know, once we come out of this, spend some time over the summer looking back going, all right, this is the area that I was thin on, and I need to build that up a little bit. And this is the area I was thin on, and I need to build that up a little bit. And kind of maybe I'm going to hold off on building those until I'm not flying the plane. And it's landed a bit for the summer, and I have some time to really kind of assess what the heck that just was that happened in April and May.
Very good point. Betty.
Teachers are professionals. We know what we're doing, and we're going to keep it lean and clean. And I'm right there with Sean on this. You know, when I look at it, I've got 7 weeks, 14 hours worth of work. This is not the time for me to just grab a whole bunch of stuff. It's for me to say, hey, this is what I need to stream down, and here's what I need to figure out. So there's a couple resources here and there that have been beneficial for me, and I threw them in there. This is not the time for you to go through and try to figure out. If you can't catch it in the first minute or two, park that thing, but do like I do. I'm saving all those resources and putting them in a file so I can try them over the summer, take a look at them, because they're all free right now. So I'm going to grab as many as I can. But there's a lot of great resources out there. But I think teachers are the most professional. They know their students best. Let's get our work, get our kids thinking. I think that, like you said, Sean, there's low expectations, but there's still high results that can occur because we're really taking the time for kids to love learning and talk about learning. We talked about the demand curve shifting for gasoline on Wednesday. I have never had my kids so involved in throwing out some of the worst scenarios I have ever heard, in some of the, quite frankly, ridiculous ideas. But you know what? For the first time, they're not afraid to throw that stuff out there. It's like the spaghetti you throw to the wall and see what sticks. But they're putting it out there, and everybody's giving some really good feedback and saying, okay, what are you trying to say there? Where are you trying to go with that? Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, well, but that doesn't make sense fundamentally. So we're having some really good discussions in there. A lot of teachers think daughter is at a college and they got put online, and they have pounded them with work. More is not rigor. Rigor is when you're fully engaged in the work and want to learn more. It's like Sir Ken Robinson said, when you are in your element, you are excited, you are motivated, you're moving, and you want to learn more because you're in your element. This is a beautiful time for us to get kids in their element and just let them rock and roll. It's a beautiful time, and that's the great opportunity I see right now.
I have seen a lot more creativity out of my students than I have in the last semester and a half of school.
I was thinking a year, but okay, semester.
Yeah, semester and a half. But yeah, and so I think that's a lot too, letting them, they're not scared to for some reason right now.
Yeah.
And I always kind of say, keep it simple, stupid, which isn't necessarily the right thing to say, but right now everyone's just being thrown into online. And I've taught online for a long time in different things. Since about 2002, I've taught online. And my online courses normally can get very in-depth, and there's a lot of cool stuff you can do with them. But I also had to sit back and look at what time do we have to set this up. a lot of that takes a lot of prep work. And so that's another thing we have to kind of evaluate as teachers too, and not pick ourselves because someone else may be doing something different. All of our students are different, our situations are different, our schools are different. On to the next question. Educators and learners are usually more adept at the use of technology and distance learning than others due to the expansion of our type of delivery over the past 10 years. However, how quickly do you think this brings people into unfamiliar areas or not as familiar up to speed? Sorry. So how do we quickly bring those who are not familiar up to speed? If you guys did some cool things with the Chromebooks.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Yeah. I think what you do is we put together technology hubs. And again, I'm amazed how quickly nationwide we have globalized. Everybody has globalized, mobilized, and moved us onto an online platform. It has been nothing more than miraculous. I'm impressed beyond words at all these school districts flat out doing what they have done on this short a timeline. So that readiness response team, I think, is doing amazing work at our districts. So big shout out to them. There's a lot of teachers that they are not comfortable with this. And our district did technology hubs and trainings and on-demands and lives and workshops. And then we've had, Zoom meetings. We've just finished our first week, or finishing our first week, but the first day we had a virtual staff meeting and said, hey, if you're having problems, let us know. We got a whole list. And so as the admin team, we met with each of our groups one-on-one, said, hey, where are you having trouble? What can I help you with? How can we streamline this? So it does take some time for some of these people that are not as tech savvy to get up to it. But I got to tell you, it's a great time to be a CTE teacher because we are the rock stars right now. Everybody has been reaching out to us to find out, what can I do to make this more meaningful? How can I get into this platform? Which platform's better to deliver this? And that's the other thing. You're talking about different schools, different districts, different teachers, different rules. It's the same with the learning platforms. We have Canvas, we're using Canvas, and we use Zoom. Some people are using Google. So everybody's got something different. So you've got to find what works for you. And then that technology training, I think it's built great camaraderie among our staff that everyone is reaching out and helping everyone become a little more tech savvy, and CTE teachers are leading the way. So I think it's great PR for us. Just got to throw that out there.
Rick, do you have anything?
I think teachers are probably doing an amazing job. They really are. I think we have to realize that online learning really looks different than face-to-face classroom settings, and research has shown that the amount of time the students should be participating in online learning is at a much reduced rate. But at the same time, I don't think that we want new teachers in general, or in particular newer or younger teachers, to kind of get lost in a different way of teaching. I think teacher mentors are probably as valuable now as they have ever been in terms of helping teachers adjust to this experience and help them put in place kind of a plan B for how they're continuing to engage your students in a virtual environment. We've done some webinars on how short videos and webinars on how to help teachers access online resources. I think the easier we make it, the better for teachers. It's overwhelming, the world they're living in right now. So I really think that there needs to be an emphasis on this kind of collaborative effort between teachers and the school district.
Sean, do you have any ideas for that topic?
Yeah, I think, I think that bringing people up to speed in this environment is tough. And I don't, and doing that quickly is even tougher. I think we have a responsibility just in normal learning scenarios to meet kids where they're at, not force them into where we're at right out of the gates. And I think whether we're talking about bringing students up to speed or other teachers up to speed, I think we have to be really aware of meeting them where they're at. And we can only stretch so far as humans, and just a tiny little stretch is really all we can ask for in this environment. And doing it quickly, I don't think has to necessarily look the way it sounds. I don't think it has to look frantic. The Navy SEALs have a saying that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And I personally like Phil Dunphy one of the greatest TV dads of all time on Modern Family. He says slow is steady and steady is fast. But either way, it's the same damn saying. And I think that there's a ton of truth to that. And we only have like a month and a half left of this. And I don't think there's any reason to break the wagon on trying to change things too quickly. Whatever we can do to meet the students and the teachers where they're at right now, and just kind of slowly and smoothly adapt to our current environment. And then whatever things look like at the end of May, beginning of June, whenever y'all get out of school, that's what they look like. And we'll have some time to reflect and improve on that over the summer.
Okay, very good. Next question, are there resources you would like to share with this group, especially those that are hands-on or can be hands-on replaced? It seems those are the most difficult to identify. So anything that you can do with hands-on, kind of like what you're talking about, Sean, with the Google Draw. I had no idea about Google Draw.
Right, Google Drawing it's amazing. Google should really pay me money for how much I talk about that tool. But it's really pretty cool. I don't know. I will share a folder of all my resources with that. We'll get that out to everybody who's in here. Somehow get a link to that folder with all those things in it. It's kind of tough for me to like talk through what that looks like and feels like in this setup here. But it really, there's a lot of drag and drop. There's fill in, there's color coding, it's really whatever you want to make of it. I build my digital breakouts in Google Drawing. You can organize links, hyperlinks to resources all within a Google Drawing. It's pretty flexible. And so for me, that's probably my best resource to share on a generic level, but then specific activities that you can see that I've built, I'll get those out to you all in a link in some format that we're able to throw together to distribute to you after we come out of this webinar here.
Okay. Deb, do you have anything?
Yeah, the lead to feed I just put in the chat box for you, and that's some community service things that might be good. Probably the biggest thing we have is when we pivoted and we had to shift, that we reached out to some of the businesses that we have worked with, some of the restaurants, and said, what can we be doing to help you with social media? So we've been putting together social media campaigns for the small businesses in our area. That's hands-on, that's meaningful, it's making a difference, and it certainly is applying all the marketing skills that we have. So those kinds of things really can help. So I would recommend something like that. And you talk about, again, being in your element, rigorous and meaningful and significant work. That's one way to do it. And I know teachers are stressed, so I stuck a mindfulness thing in there. I think it's real important that we take a breath every now and again. But as I tell my athletes, stress is where you've practiced and then what your competition is. And that gap is what creates stress. There is a little stress right now because we haven't practiced for this. So there is stress, but we close the gap by getting prepared. And teachers, again, the most professional, they're out there looking for resources, looking for ways to do it. The next week, I think that stress gap will be down lower and you'll be sailing along and be just fine. But man, it was like taking a sip of water from a fire hose for a couple weeks there, and it will probably feel that way for a little bit longer. But that stress gap is going to close. You're going to be okay. And just know the most important thing, connect with the kids, connect with yourself. Everything's going to be okay. It's going to be different, but it's going to be okay.
Rick?
Well, I mentioned a kind of a COVID-19 resource page we have on our website. And in addition to that, we're sending out a Tuesday update every Tuesday with additional resources that we tend to find relative to activities that teachers can use. And what we're trying to do with that, it's easy to send out links and say, here, go here, but where we need to support, where we are supporting is trying to help them understand how to use the resources, not just find the links, but use the resources so that they can integrate it into their curriculum, into their program that they're teaching. Obviously, we have a wealth of free instructional materials that are free to every school district in the country around ethical leadership and workplace skills, soft skills, What better time to teach students about ethics and ethical leadership? Great modules with activities in them. Again, small group activities, large group activities, great resource there. And then I recommend one more thing, that's the business community. The business community becomes a great resource to really give a real world look at business and what goes on in business. I think now is as good a time to use business as we've ever had to make use of your advisory committees or establish new business contacts. They're out there. They're out there.
Yeah, they are. And that's a good, I'm glad you brought up advisory committees, because that is a huge thing too that we kind of went to and looked at, especially in some of our other courses where I teach at Mitchell Technical College, is because they are, I mean, they're having to look at those. If you guys are still in session and you're still working, is there some way you can help our students get that lab work experience that they need? So it is very important to reach out to your business partners. This is an interesting one, because I thought about this one a lot myself, but how do you believe, or what do you believe will change in the daily life of CTE programs as a result of the pandemic and the changes it has forced?
Well, I think that number one, beyond the obvious of this whole virtual learning environment that we have to learn about, get used to, get better at, I guess, really, is the emphasis on the need to be able to pivot, to be able to change, to be able to innovate, to be able to create new ways of thinking about how we engage students in the teaching and learning process. I think you're going to see eventually an increase in requirements around curriculum development that integrates more digital learning into programs. I think schools are going to have plan Bs and plan Cs to use, not just in an emergency situation like this, or in a pandemic situation like this, but throughout the school year. I think it's going to have a potentially very positive impact on how we engage students outside the classroom and not just inside the classroom.
You know, being from South Dakota, I have thought about this. It's probably going to run every kid's snow day from now on, because they'll go, oh, we can just do e-learning, because and they're going to go, oh crap, this whole thing, run our snow days. We're never having snow days.
Yeah.
Hey, Deb.
I like that a lot. I think you're going to see more of a focus on our curriculum. I think it's going to start to have a different change. I think there's going to be more interest in the healthcare business and how do we prevent this from happening. So I think for CTE, that's pretty cool, because if you've got like biomedical or anything of that nature, I think there's going to be great interest in that. I've always said that the TV shows always drive the next big curriculum. You know, when I was growing up, and I'm old, there was Hotel was on, and I wanted to be a hotel manager. And now there's NCIS, and everybody wants to be, you know, a forensic specialist. I think everybody wants to be Dr. Fauci right now and solve this problem, get out there. I've seen more mask makers than I've ever seen in my life, and some of those are darn creative. The kids that did the 3D printing to help with the schools, it's amazing what's out there. So I think you're going to see some engineering bumps. I think you're going to see innovation, entrepreneurship. I think for, like, I have a student store, I think our whole cleanliness standards are absolutely going to change. I think it's going to be robust for CTE. But again, I think we've got to be careful about this attrition that's predicted out of the public schools and into, you know, the online schools. So we're going to need to make sure we send that message. And again, that's a good quality teacher, good quality program, and really engaging those kids, and they're doing meaningful work. You know, I saw on here the PBS thing. How cool is that? And there's quite a few things that we're doing in our communities that our communities will support us. I can tell you that doing the social media for the small businesses, those businesses are going to support us in the future for any of the endeavors that we have, because we're really building and connecting a nice network. Continue to do those things. But I think we're going to see some changes. I think robotics is also going to get a bump, because they're, you know, according to that trend article I was reading, that they're really going to go more to the robotic side of things in businesses where they can. And I think that CTE is going to have some robust bumps out of this.
Sean.
Yeah, I think two things. One, just for teachers as a whole, I think it's going to very nicely quiet the group of people who have been saying that Khan Academy is going to replace teachers. I think if anybody is trying to help their own children learn this way at home, they're also realizing that Khan Academy will not replace real teaching. So that's a nice help for us there. And then from a CTE standpoint, I hope that the highlight of what critical jobs are, is going to give us a huge bump in our enrollment and interest in our classes. Like Deb said, you know, when you look at that list of critical jobs of people that are still allowed to leave the house to go into their workplaces, you know, we're talking about industries like finance and banking and food service and medical and construction, and that, I mean, that has the CTE stamp all over it. That is CTE. The people who still are so critical that they have to go out and brave the craziness are CTE, and they are, you know, they're killing it out there for us, and they are also just doing a heck of a job promoting CTE and the courses that we teach and love so much.
Yeah, I think it's going to bring CTE to more of a forefront with a lot of communities and a lot of things actually noticing that. And I know we've talked about that a lot, even in our house, about the difference of look who's working and who's not working, and you know who's working from home and who's not, and even in our own house what we do. But I feel that that's definitely something that's going to help change it. It's going to be brought to more of the forefront. Because we are the ones that kind of creatively put kids where they need to be. So, Rick, did you have anything else on that, or?
Well, no, I don't have anything to add to that, Annika.
Okay. So, I'm trying to get through a couple more questions here. One of these is, and Sean and I were talking about this the other day, how are students coping with these quick changes in delivery? And are there issues we need to be thinking about that we haven't addressed yet on this call?
I'm going to say the delivery system, my students have done really well with it. They're used to Canvas, they're used to navigating the system, so the system work's not been a problem. The connectiveness is what's really hard for them. We actually, when we start ours, we start the class with, you know, just a little kind of how you doing. We did a pet show the other day. It was Pet Show and Tell. They really resonate with that. They enjoy connecting with each other because they're so isolated right now. We call it isolated togetherness, and that's a Marriott concept with their lounges. When you come into the lobby, it's isolated togetherness. You want to be together, but somewhat isolated, but now it's not a choice to be together. So they're isolated, but they still want to be together. So it's good for them to have those connections. But again, they can navigate the content, you know, and the systems, but it's that holding them now responsible, because now I've got them for this little time. I don't know what you guys have, but I have a 30 minutes twice a week with each class, and then they have to do their 2 to 3 hours on their own. I have virtual office hours every day, and pretty much any day they need to reach out, they can reach out to me and email and say, I need to Zoom with you, and they can Zoom, but they're not reaching out as much as I expected. So I am like kids that aren't engaged, and I have analytics on my Canvas, so I can see that they maybe went in, got an assignment, and then they haven't turned something in. I can go back and call them and say, hey, what is going on? You know, because they're downloading it, they're starting it, apparently not finishing it. So this is really important for them to be self-directed. That's new to them. I'm there saying, hey, you didn't turn it in today. You didn't turn it in today. Come on, let's get going. What's going on? How can I help you? Now that's on their own. So they're kind of a little lost. They've got the tech savvy, but they need a little more direction getting the work done. And so we're still kind of needing to be in that guiding role with them. I think that's the one thing that's a little different than before.
Okay. Sean?
I think that student coping levels are directly tied to the level of trust that the student has in their teacher. I think that the more a teacher has developed that relationship with the kids that allows them to just close their eyes and grab the teacher's hands or jump on their cape or whatever you want to call it, and just do the things that they're being asked to do. If the trust is there, then the coping is going to be there. The lack of coping, I think, stems from anxiety and worry. And if the kids trust us, then that's going to take away a lot of anxiety and worry. As far as the school side of things go, you know, it's so easy when we've got like our teacher and planning hat on to forget about that they're dealing with a world of chaos in their homes and family members and brothers and sisters and parents and grandparents the same way that we are. And so I think that coping is for me, a bigger concern, but also easier to forget about every once in a while as we get tied up in the minutia of day-to-day educator hat. What are we going to do here? And the more often I'm able to step back and just realize that, the better I feel that I'm able to create more and more trust in these kids each day that I interact with them through this new setting.
This question took me to really a lack of consistency we have with regard to access and equity that really plagues education in many ways across the country, not just in this time of pandemic, but typically in terms of students having the same access consistently to technology, to areas of bandwidth. So there's geography that comes into play here. So I think it's an uneven field out there. So that's a tough one to deal with because that varies and changes from state to state and even within a state. And I would agree with Sean, students are juggling more responsibilities at home now, whether it be caring for younger siblings and parents, worrying about parents, and a whole wealth of issues that they really create a lot of stress for students. And, educators being sensitive to that and being able to learn about that and seek information about that, I think is really critical. So I think that there's really an access issue with regard to education at the school level, and then certainly in the home setting in terms of what students have to deal with. And it's such a wide range of issues. We have to admire our educators who deal with that, not just again during pandemic, but anytime throughout a school year.
Yeah, that taking care of home thing, I mean, we have students, and I'm sure that we are not special here, but we have students whose parents have lost their jobs, but the student hasn't because they work at the grocery store or they work in an elderly care home, and so our students are picking up more hours, and not only more hours, but hours during the traditional school day because now they can, and they're kicking it up a notch on supporting financially, and there are schools really close to where I'm at. That are doing synchronous learning where the kids have to be, in the digital classroom during their class period time every single day from the second that the bell would ring to start class to the second that the bell would ring to end class. And I cringe at that. I would not want my students to be tied into that while they need massive flexibility to deal with life. That includes school and learning, but so much more as well.
Big issue.
So we are about done with our time. I saw Debbie did this. I would like Sean and Rick to put in your contact information in the chat, whether it's just like an email or something like that, so that people can find it. There's also some really good resources that have come across the chat. As we have gone through this, I've kind of looked at it and people are suggesting things that they have used or places to go. So when this video gets up, please take time to go back and look at that. And if you can get something written down, you can always write it down then. And the chat video the chat post will be posted with the video or the webinar. So I want to make sure that's right. I really appreciate everyone being here today. I think there's a lot of good discussion about things that are going on and happening. And it's also good to know that it's just not us, it's not our state, it's not our area, it's every area that's out there. I kind of remember I was on a webinar a couple weeks ago with Kahoot, and there were like people from Portugal and everything else on it. And I'm like, wow. So this isn't just a US thing, we're all figuring it out. But reach out to us, any of us, if you have questions. That's what we're here for. If you have resources that'd be really good that you want to be shared out, we can get those out to you. I can send out e-blasts, so if there's more questions that any of you guys have, please let me know, and we can get some of that information sent out to our members. We want to be here for you during this time and help you out any way that we can. Anything, last comments, Rick, Sean, or Debbie?
Just thanks to ACTE. I thought this was a wonderful activity, and I think Sean and Debbie and Annika, thank you for being part of this panel. It was great to be on here with you.
Yeah, in addition to the big thanks to ACTE, just a big thanks to all of you. I've been super lucky to be able to kind of spend some time meeting a lot of business teachers all over the country, and it is my favorite part about doing that is just knowing how awesome our colleagues are around the country. And as teachers who typically don't have a lot of colleagues in the building, it's easy to look at social studies and math and English and be jealous of them. And well, not that jealous because I wouldn't want to teach that, but it's easy to look at them and be jealous and just with how many people they have around them. And so we have, it's an amazing crew of business teachers we have in this country. And y'all took your evening to come and do this for an hour. So that's just a testament to what we are. And I thank you for being us.
I think also one final comment I'll say is that, and hate to overuse this comment, but I think educators, we're all in this together. We all have these same common problems to share across the country, no matter where you live or what school district or type of school you teach in. And I'm biased, of course, but I think business educators, business administration educators are a unique breed of people that will do whatever it takes to get something done. And I think that's pretty cool.
I want to say thank you guys for coming. It's, you hate throwing a party and nobody shows. So thank you for being here. Did you waste a day or use it? Was it well or sorely spent? Trail of kindness or a scar of discontent? And I think everybody here leaves trails of kindness. And in a world where you can be absolutely anything you want, be kind and be professional. And thank you guys for your time.
Thanks again, Annika.
Oh, you're welcome. Steve or Brand, did you have anything left on ACTE side or? Nope. Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. I so appreciate the panelists kind of jumping last minute. But it was such a great discussion and so good to have everyone on. Have a good evening.